welcome everybody to the Building Bellingham Pivot Series. Thank you all of my guests here for joining me. Thank you everyone that's watching for joining us. So I've actually got, I don't know how your Zoom tiles are oriented here, but I'm just going to go on order on how they are. Scott, you're in the upper left corner here. Scott Ward, thank you for joining us with the downtown Fairhaven, Fairhaven District, historical, all of Fairhaven.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
are Fairhaven. Why am I giving you the list? You're all
I don't know.
Fairhaven.
Yeah.
Tell me about you and what you do.
Yeah, I'm the executive director of the Historic Fairhaven Association. And basically, we work to promote Fairhaven while preserving its historic character. So we do everything from advertising and promotion to creating events. We have pretty much an event every month, if not more. So it's a lot of event work and building community and really focusing on connecting our businesses with the folks locally and across the state and a little bit internationally. We work a lot with Bellingham Whatcom County Tourism and a little bit with Alice at the Downtown Partnership and the City of Bellingham. And then, you know, one of the things that makes Fairhaven really special is its history and the stories that it carries. And it has 11 buildings that are on the historic register as far as being historical. And so we really work on trying to keep that aspect of Fairhaven alive and well and part of the experience for folks that come to visit.
Awesome. And for those that are watching that don't know Fairhaven, just drive into Bellingham and get off right before you get into like the downtown area of Bellingham. Alice's her area down there, and that is where Scott's talking about. So people that don't know Fairhaven, a lot of people know Fairhaven and maybe even don't know Bellingham, which is interesting.
Well,
People talk to me like that.
Yeah, actually, I don't know about that. I think Fairhaven's one of the state's best kept secrets, one of Bellingham's best kept secrets too. I think that folks know that Bellingham is here, but I don't know that they know that Fairhaven is here. So we're working to change that too. But Leo, one of the best things is coming up Chuckanut, because when you come off of Chuckanut Drive, then you enter into Fairhaven, which would be, I say, the front door to Bellingham, and it's such a beautiful way to come in. So then pass through Fairhaven, you can get to downtown. But yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. And Naomi Richards, you're down here in the bottom left of the Zoom grid. You're with Laremont Manor. Tell us a little bit more about what you do. A little bit more about Laremont Manor.
Yeah, so Laremont Manor is also a historic place in Fairhaven, Washington, located in the Edgewater neighborhood. It was actually the home of Charles Larrabee, who's one of the founders of Fairhaven. So it's been there since 1914. It has a lot of history. Right now we host a lot of weddings. Well, not right now, but during normal times, we host, 60 weddings a year, 120 events. We do business retreats, educational workshops, whatever anyone wants to use the space for. We love being involved in the community and offering our space to nonprofit groups. And I am the venue coordinator. So also interesting though, I actually started this position on March 9th. And as we all know, a couple weeks later, the Stay Home, Stay Healthy initiative was launched. And so we had to close our doors. So my days now are taken up not with what the initial job description was that was given to me, but with a different set of tasks, a lot of coordinating and communicating with our guests and our clients for the coming year.
Yeah, a lot of planning ahead. Well, thank you for joining
us.
Yeah, a lot of pivoting.
Yes, lots of pivoting.
And Alice Clark, so you're the president of the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. You're all that is downtown Bellingham, from art walk, wine walk, downtown sounds, all of these things that are core downtown Bellingham. Tell us a little bit more about you, what you do. Maybe what's the short list of what you don't do? You guys, there's a short list of what you guys don't do, right?
I'm actually the executive director, not the president. That's the president of the board, but that's just a small thing. We do a lot of the similar things that Scott does for his downtown, his district. We do not do events every month other than Art Walk. That sounds a little crazy, Scott. What are you doing over there? But yeah, we I always think about that. The way that we break up our work is really what you see in the public realm. So those events, and keeping everything beautiful with plants. We just hung our hanging baskets, landscaping, murals, any kind of placemaking, just stuff that you see as you walk around Bellingham. And then behind the scenes is just supporting our businesses as much as we can, getting them the tools they need to be successful and connecting them with each other. And then there's also just the promotion of those businesses and promoting the district. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. We are also part of the National Main Street organization. And so that is in Washington State. I think there's like 33 Main Street communities. And so we are all just about revitalization of our districts. That organization came into place around the time that all the malls were being built, and it was to help downtown districts thrive amidst that emerging threat of the mall. And so it's a really great network. There's a lot of help that we give each other with that. So I find that really helpful to be part of that association.
So restoration, I mean, obviously there needs to be some growth, but you're saying having the maintenance or keeping the character of a historic downtown, because downtown is the core of a city, right?
Exactly. It's the county seat. It's the center of the city. And interestingly, with this coronavirus thing that's been happening, some of the things that people are worried about is that if there are spaces that become empty, will they be filled by chains like, the subways and the others that will may help us lose our authenticity. So it's really important that we retain as many of those mom and pop local businesses as possible. So that's kind of our charge right now.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
So there's one thing, well, there's probably a number of things that you guys all have in common, but one thing that really comes to attention for me is the fact that all of the businesses or organizations that you're involved in have this core element of gathering, right? So much of human happiness and thriving has to do with, I mean, Scott, you and I were just talking about sitting around the campfire and how it's difficult to be 6 feet away from those that we want to give a hug to or a high five to or throw s'mores at or whatever it may be. And right now, we're not able to do that really in the way that we want to. So tell me a little bit more, and anyone, we don't have to raise hands, just jump right in. Tell me a little bit more about what that's been like, since the core of what you all do is gathering.
Yeah, I think a lot of attention and emphasis has gone on to the financial aspect of what is being lost. And that is a true and viable concern. But, we live in a place, Bellingham and Fairhaven, are places where connection and friendship and intimacy play an important role. So my partner and I own a shop in Fairhaven, along with everything else I do. And, one of the things I've realized is that we don't just sell gifts and cards and artwork, but we also sell connection and community and friendship. And so that's true for all of the businesses in Fairhaven, that when you come, you anticipate this sense of being connected and part of a greater community. And so that has been a major loss for folks. And we're trying to figure out, what does that look like now? Right now we're all sitting in little boxes on the screen, right? And that's better than not being able to see each other at all. But it's certainly not the same as being face to face with somebody and having that kind of conversation. And so it's a challenge. That's, to be honest, that's one of our biggest challenges in our community. And I would guess it's true for downtown too, is that they have a similar experience, but definitely in Fairhaven, gathering on the village green or walking in the paths, you'd have to be conscious about how you are everywhere. It's just not the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the heart, what we do is really community building. And so when you're not, a large part of that is in-person gatherings, people going to restaurants. And I mean, that's why our downtown had been really thriving, is that people, no matter what, they got to get out of their house. They want to see each other. They want to have a meal together. It's those interactions that make us human beings, really. And so, yeah, it's not the same being on a screen. It's the interactions that you see with each other's faces and it's just all those things that make us humans. It's hard not to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'd say for a lot of our clients, we do a lot of weddings. And so, of course, those are, a pivotal, huge moment in anyone's life, and they want to share it with all of their loved ones. So, right now, as everything's kind of on pause, we kind of think everyone take this time to, plan an even bigger celebration, and they get to invest more in their wedding and have even more personal touches and, all of those things, they realize how special those gatherings really are, that sometimes, we kind of, in one sense, took for granted at one point, or, even got annoyed at, like, have to go to another wedding, we're seeing people, sort of hold on to that and really cherish the planning aspect of it, and that one day they will be able to gather with all of their loved ones.
So tell me a little bit about, and Naomi, you talked a little bit about March 9th was your day one. Tell me a little bit more from your perspective on, I don't want to dwell too much on the negativity, because I think there are a lot of silver linings. There's a lot of positivity, some really amazing things that I'm seeing as a result of all this. Obviously, there's an immense tragedy with what's going on with people health-wise. But tell me a little bit more about that, like, January 1st, right? We come into this new year. 2020 is supposed to be this like huge year. I'm sure you all have tons of events planned, from Fairhaven to Bellingham to Laremont, for all of you. And all of a sudden, we hear about this this thing that's maybe happening overseas. Step me through that, like, between then and now, and some of the challenges, obviously right off the bat, your response to those, and then where we are now. Have we launched forward?
I'll go ahead. I feel like for us, it definitely was, and I think I might have said this to Scott before, it's like you're going through the stages of grief. So in the beginning, you're like, oh yes, in another country, whatever, it's not. And then it's just, then you're in denial for a while. No, it's not happening. And then it feels like you get to acceptance, and acceptance also has a couple different stages, because first you're like, yeah, like, it should be that by summer things will be, and then the more it goes into it, you're like, oh, okay. I see what's going on. And then, when the health department was just like, that was kind of like, we're waiting to see who's going to say what's the final word, and they're like, it's not going to happen. And then you're like, okay, so we've just mobilized to do a virtual downtown sounds. That's all you can do, is just like, that's really important. And how do we, in this world, create that community? And so it's kind of an interesting challenge. But I think it can be done, and we can support some local music venues and support some local musicians. And so we're getting really excited about that prospect. So that's kind of, our stream was like, no, then, then okay. So now we're in acceptance, and now we're mobilizing all the different fronts, right, to do what we can do.
So
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, along the same lines, at first it felt, when it really was clear that this was happening, it was going to happen locally, it felt really lonely. I think everybody felt like they were alone in it, and that made this sense of helplessness alive and well, right? And so it took a while for folks to realize, hey, we're all having the same experience, like, we're all in this together. And once that shift happened, that's when I started to see some amazing things happening, where we got folks who weren't normally engaged in the process started to show up because their life depended on it, right? And so now I'm able to work with some of the folks that I hardly had any contact with at all. And that's both within Fairhaven Village, but in greater Whatcom County. Like, I have started meeting folks and working with folks that maybe I've heard of or not heard of. And I think that greater sense of community that's being grown through this crisis is actually a really beautiful thing. That's kind of one of the nice things that's coming out of it.
Yeah, and you said something along the lines of when people's life depend on it. And I know it's kind of, to me, it's a little bit sad that our life has to depend on it for us to make some sort of change, but we had that. That's the reality of it. And so what I'm hearing from you all is that yes, it right off the bat it was just a wave. It hit us, but at the same time, it was one of those opportunities for, well, we don't have another choice. We have to go play cards with our friends, or you know what I mean, or Zoom. We have to focus on our community, and all of a sudden, people are starting to really get more rooted in that. Naomi, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say coming in, January, February, March, it was just kind of, like you said, this far away thing. And then, started my position and immediately started getting, sort of bombarded with all of those, people having questions about what our solutions were. And one of the first things I did was I actually just called up a ton of other wedding venues in the area, in the Seattle area, and just kind of asked them, hey, what are you guys doing? How are you guys responding to this? What are you telling your clients? And just, I mean, I probably wouldn't have done that or met any of those people if I had kind of stepped into my role and everything had been, pretty steady and normal. But because of that, I got to see this amazing industry and community of wedding vendors in our area that, were so quick to offer help and advice, and, at the same time also, offer the sort of assurance, we kind of all don't know what we're doing right now, but we are moving forward. I'm very thankful for technology in this time. I can't, as a younger person growing up and I've always having had these avenues to connect with people, I very much can't imagine what this time would be like without, Zoom and FaceTime and all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Alice, you said something about taking, so I'm trying to picture, because I go to Downtown Sounds. My wife and I are always down there. We love it. And there's other events that you guys do that we love. And Fairhaven, love it. Went to a wedding last year at Laremont. I love all of the things that you all are doing. How does it, so maybe give me a picture of what this looks like to take an event where there's, I don't know, thousands of people there listening to music, food's everywhere, beers everywhere. It's a great time. And making that virtual, what does that look like? How can you tell me a little bit about that?
I can tell you a little bit about it. So, as you probably are aware, a lot of the music venues are really struggling because they can't do anything right now. So if we can get some local bands, a lot of times we have some local and then we have regional, and sometimes we even have national acts, and it's like, okay, let's just stick to local. There's some really great musicians right here in our area, and get them to perform at some music venues. It could be by the time we do this, we're kind of looking at August, is that they may allow a certain percentage of people in there. So there could actually be a small audience within the space, perhaps. We'd live stream it like you're doing. We would encourage people to partake of some curbside cocktails from downtown, their favorite businesses, get some food from their favorite restaurants, and then go to their living room or outside and kind of crank it up and get into the music and get into just seeing. And then people could post on Instagram like their little family dancing to, it's going to look, that's what we're hoping for. So you will feel connected. Yeah. Of course, it won't be the same as, in the beer garden on a sunny day and you're got to put the sunscreen on and you're having a great beer and it won't be the same, but it will be, our point is to bring community together. And so this is the way that we will do that.
I have to admit that you just talking about a beer on a sunny day with music made me zone out to another place that was very.
I bet, I know. It's kind of like there were so many times that I myself was in the beer garden, just kind of like in it and enjoying it, and you just took, I think you take it for granted when you look back of all those moments of just kind of in the mosh pit of your community and dancing and just having such a great time. And yeah, it'll be back. Yeah.
We know we'll be back.
Yeah.
And Scott, what about you? What about you for you guys do Dirty Dan Days? There's, I mean, you probably know the list better than I do, but there's a lot of events down there. I mean, there's the outdoor cinema. There's all sorts of things happening. What's happening this year, and how are you guys pivoting?
Nothing is happening. Really, Dirty Dan was last month. Fairhaven Festival, which is in kind of conjunction with Ski to Sea, is not happening this month. It's supposed to be this weekend. I should be really busy getting ready for this weekend, and I'm just going to watch it go by, which is kind of sad. And then, the outdoor cinema has been completely canceled. And, we look to the fall, and we were supposed to have a wine walk in August, and then a fall brunch in September. And, maybe by the time we get to end of September, we can do something, and then we have Winterfest in November, and that still has a question mark behind it. Are we going to be able to do anything in the winter? Can we do carriage rides? Are there going to be 2 people on a carriage every time it goes, right? Who knows? So it's, when I just reflect on what we were talking about before, this sense of connection and community, this is devastating to that, because our celebrations, our community celebrations, we're not able to have them. So we are figuring out virtual ways of being community, but that getting together and actually celebrating as a community, that for us has been set aside, and it's not determined when we'll be able to get back to it. We will get back to it, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But at the same time, we're looking at, like Alice is, creative ways of doing it. Are there ways that we can do a virtual wine walk? Can you come and do a curbside pickup of your 8 tastes, and do, a Zoom meeting with other folks and share your experience of tasting the wine, right? So we're looking at other ways of doing it, and this is the format, right? What we're doing right here is trying to move everything to this. So, but to not be able to do our biggest festivals, Dirty Dan Day and Fairhaven Festival, that's just really a real struggle for us. It's been hard.
Do you see that some of the elements of this carrying forward? Obviously, we all hope not, right? We all want to go back to how it was normally, but and I see Naomi nodding about weddings and other events as well. But do you see some of the elements of this sticking forever, or do you see this being something where we just, the minute we can go back to normal, we're going back to the analog, which we all love, which we need, and as humans, do you see a balance of the two, or what do you see?
I think one thing we've started doing that we never did before was giving virtual tours of our venue to couples in Seattle and, even farther away who were interested in seeing our venue. But of course, aren't able to come at this time, but, they also in regular times may not have wanted to make the drive. So I think that's something that might carry forward, is just kind of that access. We have that, willingness to allow a camera to come into our space. I think everyone's kind of experiencing that we're kind of sharing more, even though we're not there. And I think that's kind of a useful tool that we'll probably use in the future. I know the gathering size of weddings trend over the last few years has been shrinking a little bit. And, this later summer, we're anticipating some small weddings, live streaming weddings as well for loved ones. That's kind of something people are doing. Of course, we love for everyone to come, but that's, something we might adopt and, might work better for people who are, too far away to come to a wedding. So we might experience that in the future.
Wow. Live streaming weddings. That blows my mind. I was trying to think about how much smaller our wedding would have been if it was live streaming to some of because part of it, it's funny, but at the same time, you think about people who have trouble flying or traveling, and it really is a silver lining for those people. Obviously, we want our grandparents or elders to come out to the gatherings and whatnot. But that's amazing. So have you seen a lot of people move their wedding until next year indefinitely, or just temporarily postpone it?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of postponements. Everyone is still, for the most part, all of our clients are still very excited to host a huge gathering of their loved ones. Something we are going to be doing a little bit of is hosting sort of an intimate, 10-person or less, mom, dad, siblings, efficient, kind of do a photo shoot, small ceremony, and then next year hosting a big party. Where everyone's able to come and partake in all of the wedding traditions that are very important to them, and important to have everyone at. So we're going to be doing that a bit more. That's kind of been something people have done in years past, doing a small intimate ceremony and then a big reception on another day. But that's something that us and a lot of other wedding venues are kind of to. So we'll be doing that.
Awesome. So you all are leaders in many different ways, right? In your local community and in a greater perspective of Bellingham. In a time like this, when it feels like everything's contracting, whether like businesses are having to contract, we're not able to have these events. What is that like for you as leaders you have this moment of chaos or ongoing event of chaos? How do you lean into that and give back to your community in a time where you may have less? Like you may have contracted, right?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I mean, for me, I think what fuels me is that Bellingham was really on a roll. And that keeps me going, because I do believe that we can get back to something similar over time. And so I think that just keeping the vision in mind, that's always worked for me, kind of like no matter what I've done, it's been like, I can see that that's where we're going to head. And so we just have to be strategic about the steps we need to take to get there right now. How do we support businesses right now to get back online? How do we, and I think that's kind of the sobering reality, is you realize that's part of the whole acceptance thing, is like, you know what, there's probably going to be some businesses that are not going to be able to make it to the other side. But how do we ensure that the majority can? So I feel like our team is we went through the phases, and now we're kind of in how do we lean into that as hard as we can, because that's, we can't do all the events and all the other stuff that we do. Now it's all economic development. Now it's all like supporting them as much as we can. How do we do that? And I think my team just really loves those kind of challenges. It's a problem to solve. It's a new thing. So that keeps us going too.
Yeah, and I think if you've got kind of the leadership bug in you, something like this actually calls out the creative problem solving that is part of what makes the job exciting, right? And so that's one of the things that I have recognized, is that all these kind of community leaders are coming together and having to think creatively about how to approach it. And in that process, there's some great excitement and optimism and promise. And I love that part of it. I don't think you're cut out to be a leader if something like this doesn't in some way inspire you. If it's going to just bring you down, then you should probably find something else to do, because things like this happen. And I think it's an opportunity for us to work together in different and exciting ways.
Absolutely. Naomi, it's not that you're a new leader. You're a new leader in your position. So you're a new leader in your place, and you have probably this opportunity right off the bat. You're like, well, I could just, do what I'm going to do, and maybe I bail, or maybe I do something else, or you just lean into it, right? And you chose to lean into it. Tell me about that moment that you decided, you know what, I'm going to step into this chaos, and I'm just going to do it. I don't know what it looks like yet. I don't have it figured out quite yet, but I have an idea, and I have this creative side, this leader that I can push through it.
Yeah. Well, I don't I'm a hard worker and I don't run from a challenge. I mean, I think I do kind of enjoy that challenge of trying to, fix things and make things better for other people. And I immediately recognized that, I knew this position I was taking was helping with so many people's important life events. And to me, those are so important to me. And to have that kind of derailed by this thing that no one saw coming, I kind of felt that I was put in that position to, have to step up and help all these people. And so, I definitely just kind of taken it upon myself without a second thought, like, no, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna help everyone. And yeah, I guess it's just there.
Just made that call, yeah. And so there's two parts, I think. I think there's the leaning in. We have this like afterburner as a leader where we say, well, this is my reserve tank that I've been saving up all these years for moments like this. And you kick it into gear. But what is the thing on the other side? What's that constant for you all that is the thing that you can do to go unplug and recharge? And maybe it's a Zoom call, maybe it's being out in nature, maybe it's just sitting and staring at your wall. I mean, we all have our constants, right? Tell me a little bit more about you as people. What are your constants?
I think for me, it's my family. I've got both my son and daughter that live in town, and my grandson lives in town. I think just having those connections to those people is so important to me right now. I can't imagine if they lived on another part of the country, that would be really hard. And the other thing for me is that I'm just a real avid hiker. If I can get out and be in the woods and hike and camp next to a stream overnight, I am recharged. I can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your go-to hike?
I got a lot of secret hikes that I can't disclose.
You'd have to kill us if you told us.
If I would do one suggestion, it would be, and I did this a couple years ago. So go to Skyline Divide.
Oh yeah.
But go later in the season. Go September, late September. Still nice out. Go midweek. I went up there. I had the whole thing to myself, which was really bizarre. And I camped up there by myself, and it was a spiritual experience. So do that.
Beautiful. Love it. I'm so glad you didn't say Oyster Dome. Hey, everyone go to Oyster Dome. We'll go over this direction, right?
Yeah, no. I got a secret Chuckanut hike that I can't tell you, but it's just as good as Oyster Dome.
Yeah, well, we live in Edgemoor, so we walk from here to Chuckanut, really, and there are some nice little paths back there that hardly anybody knows about, and I don't tell folks about it either, because it's so great to go there and be the only ones we ever see. And I'm with Alice, like, part of the reason we live here is for the beauty of this place geographically, and to be able to get out, like I said, walk out our front door and be in the mountains and the forest is completely rejuvenating for me. And we try to at least walk through the neighborhood every day, but taking those longer walks is ultimately the thing that is the easiest and most satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar, honestly. Since I started working in the Edgemoor neighborhood at Claremont, I've been doing all those trails north Chestnut Mountain, and been doing that a lot too. That and a lot of podcasts and audiobooks, just something to kind of escape.
Yeah.
So, and I don't. This can be taken in whatever direction you all want to take it in. I'm curious to see what's your perspective on. I mean, at this time, Alice, you're talking about focusing on economic development, which is incredibly important. But we all moved here, or we all are from here, or stayed here because of this vibe. I don't know how to explain it. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's got all the right elements around. You can get to a big city if you really want to go get stuck in traffic for 4 hours. I mean, that's the reason that we're here. What's the balance of growth, like you're saying, economic development, developing our local businesses, but then also maintaining this and preserving what you all do, preserving this amazing place. How do you find that? What's that balance?
I think that you have to realize that we're going to grow, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. People are moving here, and so it's just being conscious of how we grow and getting the leadership where we need it to be to do that conscious leadership through it. And I also feel like, I think that what I've noticed downtown is that there's definitely sometimes, and this is where the conflict happens, is that growth is happening. And so people are like, oh, it's changing. Not like it, you know, they have this reaction of like, we're going to turn into Bellevue, or, you know, there's just like this gut feeling of just fight it, right? And I believe that the more that we can get engaged in kind of co-creating what this is going to look like, the better. So, because I think that we can, and I think that we all want to retain the authenticity that we see in downtown Bellingham and other places. And so I think it's just people getting involved and getting engaged and not watching it happen and then reacting when like, oh, it's just like, that's what I've noticed through just my time here, is that the future belongs to those who show up.
That's right.
And a lot of people just don't show up. And if you give a damn, show up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very similar concept in Fairhaven, right? We are already seeing tremendous growth and new buildings coming in with residential space in them, and new businesses. And so, you know, from our point of view as an association, we're trying to be ahead of that curve and be the leaders in what that looks like. And so it's maintaining the culture that has been established. And so, you know, we're doing things like creating welcome packets for residents and new businesses to say, hey, this is what you're moving into, right? We're not conforming to you, but you are conforming to us in a sense, right? That this is the place that we love and honor and cherish and hope that you can also. And it has to do with that sense of leadership, just as Alice says, if you get these leaders into place who have a clear vision of what is important and valuable, then that's going to keep it that way. And there is no avoiding growth. It's a beautiful place. We all live here because we love it here. People discover it. They love it too. We can't say, no, sorry, we're full. That's not going to happen. But we just have to be the leaders in this is this place and welcome to it the way it is, right?
I think Claremont Manor is kind of a testament to that too. You know, it's been around for so many years, and it's still a staple of the community. And you know, many people who live in the community know about it and have been to an event through there and love it. And it's just, you know, it's been around for so long, and it'll be around after this. And I think it's just another testament to the community.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is, you know, there's just got to be the right vision in place. And Alice, I just want to say I love that statement. Like, those who are not involved don't get to be a part of the future. Is that how you say it, or how can you say?
No, I said the future belongs to those who show up.
God, it sounded like Batman. It sounded all dark and dreary. Sorry about that. I took your awesome quote and get really
positive.
sad. You don't get to be involved. No, I love that. And that's something that I've actually personally been so focused on over the last, I've been in Bellingham for 12 years. And so since I've been here, like actually leaving that little bubble of Western and growing into like, oh, this is actually where I live. This is Fairhaven. It's actually kind of a different, it's part of Bellingham, but it's like its own little place. And you have all these, you know, places these trails and all these different places you can explore. And so I find that really interesting. And so I do see that a lot. Do you also see that a lot of people complaining about things that are happening in the community that are changing, but they're not really willing to do anything besides say something? They're not really willing to step in and be involved.
Yeah. Don't get me started. Yeah. 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 It's hard, you know, for me, it's hard to give weight to those folks because just as Alice says, right, the future belongs to those that show up. And it's hard to take feedback or ideas from somebody who's not willing to in any way participate in the process. And so I learned early on to acknowledge what they're saying and then let it go. Unless they're willing to come and be part of the party, then we don't have that party, right? And so because there are a ton of ideas and a ton of folks who are willing to step up and help, and I'd much rather support that and be part of it because there's a chance that those things can be manifested and actually come to life. Those other things, they're, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so right now things are they're different. They're slow. You're focusing on other things, right? Within your organizations and in your businesses. Being in this business or in this world of gathering, we have this no gathering or minimal gathering or weird electronic robot gathering like we're doing right now. I don't even know if you're. I don't know if you're the real you. I couldn't tell. I couldn't
Not really.
tell. But on the other side, when this does happen, everyone's hopeful. Everyone's getting to that point. But on the other side, when they say, okay, let's go back to normal after that we've hit these different phases. How do you plan for something like that where it's slow or it's different and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, people want to see each other. What do you expect from that?
It's a good question.
It is, I think it's going to be phased in. There's not going to be a moment when everybody's just going to suddenly run in. And even if it was announced today that folks could all come together as we always have, that's still not going to happen just because everybody has a slightly different take on what it means to be safe and protect oneself. So even if that notice came out now, people are going to react differently to it. I think we've talked about what does it look like to celebrate the reopening as each phase is announced. So, when phase 1 happens, hopefully next month, is there something we can do to celebrate that sense of coming together? Then when phase 2, is there something more we can do, right? And so just kind of honor it as it unfolds and not expect that there's going to ever be one moment when suddenly we have a big party and can all come out together. I think it's going to take a while for everyone to trust. It's going to take universal testing and vaccination to get to the point where we will be close to where we were before. And maybe that's the big celebration. I don't know. Vaccination party. I don't know. But
Yeah. And
we could have a vaccination booth at the next Downtown Sounds next year.
that'd be great. That'd be great.
see us here. Yeah.
There you go.
Vaccination and jazz.
Don't like needles, then you don't like beer enough, right?
That's right.
I agree that it will be phased, like Scott was saying, but it will eventually get back to more people being able to do more things. And I think that what's going to happen is that people are going to appreciate it more. And that's what I look forward to, is that when we are finally able to get together in groups and celebrate our community, I think we're just going to be so happy and so ecstatic that it's just going to be really amazing. And I look forward to that.
Absolutely. And Naomi, so for Scott and Alice, you're more on the organizational side of this call, and Naomi, you're more specific to one business. And maybe you all can speak to this, but what is it like to be a business preparing? You have to prepare for the worst, right? And you and Scott and Alice, you both work with businesses on the economic development side. What have you seen? What have been some inspiring pivot pieces, adaptation pieces, and people weatherproofing their business for to weather this storm? And we don't know if this is going to happen again. Like it could continue to have things like this happen, and we don't want that. But now we know what can happen, right? So what are you all seeing, and Naomi, what are you experiencing specifically?
So like with all the phases and everything logistically, there's so many resources in the event industry out there that's just been overwhelming. Everyone has so many good ideas, specifically for like our property, like how to space people like 6 feet apart, because you could do, smaller events that way, and you might have, clients that want to host an event, but they're very cautious and they want everyone to wear masks. And, should we set up more sanitizing stations here, or, how could we host a dinner, but all the tables are, a little bit farther apart? And so it's been a lot of, research, brainstorming, and just kind of thinking about all of those things as we kind of look at each phase going forward. So it's been a lot of that on the practical side right now. And of course, looking forward, kind of understanding how, of course, the business side of things, I don't I'm not the accountant. I don't work with those sort of things, but I know that that's their conversations that they're having in that department as well, and how that's going to look for the coming year.
Yeah, awesome. And Alice and Scott, what are you seeing? What are some really cool examples of local businesses saying, you know what, here's the silver lining, here's the someday maybe list that we've been, putting off. Here's the, whatever it may be. Here's the picture that we're going to hang on the wall, but it's been sitting in the garage for 6 months, and they just leapt into action. What are some examples of businesses in our community that you've seen that have inspired you?
I think one of the, there's a couple downtown. The Chuckanut Bay Distillery, bless their hearts, they've put all kinds of sweat and money and toil into creating their new space on Cornwall. And they were just getting open and doing tastings and, bringing this incredible historical building back to life, basically. And this happened, and they, heard about other distilleries that were making hand sanitizer, and they are just totally cranking it out and making it available to people. It's been really cool to kind of see what they're doing. And then just different restaurants. It's, they're just getting really creative. Boundary Bay is a really good example of just like, okay, we got fish fry, Friday, and you're going to order, and then we're going to fry it up for you, and you're going to drive through the alley, and you're going to pick it up. And those kind of businesses, just a lot of restaurants like that, just kind of working what they can, however they can. I don't know how they're surviving personally, because it seems like a lot of work and a lot of thought, like all the time to keep up. It's a hyper hustle situation for those people. So I got to give them credit for sure.
Yeah, and it's the same in Fairhaven, right? So a lot of the restaurants have figured out how to make the curbside pickup work, and even some of our retailers are doing the curbside pickup, window shop, look in the windows, point at something, and purchase it that way. Some of our businesses have gone online. They haven't had online stores before, and so they've done that. Posh Upscale Resale is actually doing virtual shopping, so you can call her up and she'll FaceTime you through the store. Ask you a few questions. What are you looking for? What kind of dress? And she'll walk you through the store and actually do a virtual experience, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, it's I don't know how much of it will go on beyond this. I think, like Alice says, it's really labor intensive. Every one of those things. If you're going to run an online store and think you're going to do, and you're a sole proprietor of a retail space, and you're going to be able to run the store and be online at the same time, not possible. And so, it's hard to think that some of these things that are happening for survival now will continue into the future. I'm not saying that some of them won't, but it's going to be another puzzle to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've talked a little bit about, there's a little bit of negative, but there's a lot of positive. And I'd like to hear a message. What kind of message would you like to give to people within your localized community, people within your family, your friends? What would you like to say to people about what to be inspired with going forward and how to empower people?
Scott, you go first. Naomi, you go first.
Alex, I would just say, it shows, something like this shows just how resilient the human spirit is, right? That and especially when we come together, we can do this. Like we're creative, innovative, smart enough together that we can work through this. And I think probably one of the best things about this is that when we come out of the other end, we are going to have tools and processes and connections that we wouldn't have had before had we not gone through this, that will make us stronger. Like Alice was saying, it's going to put us in a place of greater appreciation for being able to be together and work together and do together. And I think ultimately that to me is a beautiful thing. Like that's what I keep my kind of vision on, is that place when we get there, that we're going to be so appreciative of being able to do this together.
Yeah, I think this has definitely been a pause for everyone. So I know there's all the struggling to get through it and everything, but it's also given people a chance to work on, parts of their business or someday maybe list. They've been able to do that. So at the other end of it, we're gonna, have, oh, I had this idea and now I want to do it. And I was able to actually take all this time and look into this other thing my business can do. And now let's do it, So I think we'll see a bunch of different stuff happen at the end of this. And yeah, I think it's also shown us that we are a resilient community, coming out of this, we'll be stronger for it. So
I agree with both of them. I also feel like for me, it's like just keeping in mind that it is going to pass. We are going to get to the other side is really helpful. And just what can we learn from this experience that is worth bringing to the other side? Do we need to travel as much? Do we need to meet as much? Do we need to hang out at home and do things together more? All the things that we're learning because we kind of have to. Is nature a really good source of peace and giving us more strength to keep going? I think there's a lot that we can learn right now if we just pay attention that we can take to the other side. So, yeah.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as we wrap up here, I think we could all agree we could probably talk for another couple hours. I would love to hear more about what's going on in depth in your worlds, and but at the same time, I really do appreciate you taking the time to join me today, be vulnerable, talk about what's going on. I mean, I know this is the ultimate time to be vulnerable, right? If you haven't already been before, this is it. And so for those of you that are watching, you can find Scott at fairhaven.com or on Facebook at Historic Fairhaven or at Historic Fairhaven on Instagram. Follow what's going on in Fairhaven. Follow what's going on in Bellingham. With Alice, you can find her at downtownbellingham.com or on Facebook or at Downtown Beham. Just want to know what's going on in our community. These are both amazing people to connect with regarding what's going on in Bellingham. And then if you want to know anything about what's going on at that beautiful Laremont Manor venue, tons of flowers, beautiful old building, historical Bellingham, reach out to Naomi. Find them on LaremontManor.com, on the Facebook page, or at Laremont Manor on Instagram. And so for people that are watching, would you guys all feel comfortable with people reaching out to you with any Fairhaven questions, wedding questions, event questions, Bellingham questions, any of the above?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Yeah.
Awesome.
No problem.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all that we're watching this and on the Building Bellingham Pivot series. And thanks so much for being inspirations in our community and keeping that centric focus on local business and our community. Much, much appreciated.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
us.
Thanks, Leo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
appreciate it.